Hello guys, it's your boy Owayo back at it again. I wanted to talk about this book, the book of Gratiyus, or the founding of Levitica, which is about one of the books in the collection of the OAHSPE material. Although this is not in the official compilation of OAHSPE book, it's part of the OAHSPE material that was not included by Newberg into the official compilation, though those who follow the OAHSPE and Gospel read it, and this to some extent is still related to it. So the following book of Gratiyus was written by J.B. Newberg after he had built the Shallam colony in New Mexico. Although it has merit, it was not written within the same time period when the original OAHSPE manuscript was written. This book, I wanted specifically to highlight how it has a plan of people creating a new system that people become free and not enslaved into the material and the technocratic world, which is an important aspect that people today can pick from the book and learn from it, and maybe learn how to organize themselves in such a manner, and maybe see what sort of challenges they will have to face when trying to create a new system that doesn't follow any of what has ever been on earth, especially when it's focused on bringing people closer to the Creator and their divinity, elevating their awareness into their highest potential. So here we go. Book of Gratiyus, or the founding of Levitica, chapter 1. As daughter of Jehovis said, in the name of Jehovis, greeting unto all people, as by and through him all things are accomplished. So shall we remember that through our own short-sightedness we oft interpret things wrongly. For in after time we discover that what happened was for the best, especially in extending the brotherhood of mankind. In the founding of Jehovis' kingdom in Shallam, his chosen had many trials and difficulties, even as had been prophesied by the OAHSPE and Gospels. But their trials were different from what they had expected. People came among them who were unsuited to the work, and to whom the work was not suited either. Some of these went away of their own accord, but some had to be sent away, yet much time elapsed before this resulted. Finally, the chosen were separated and unmolested, and they began the work commanded by God, Jehovis' Son. Now, out of their aforesaid trials and difficulties, a new condition was born into the world, Levitica, the joy of man. But before speaking of Levitica, a brief sketch of the condition of man should be made. He had been carnivorous for hundreds of generations. Passion, anger, disputation, opposition, and self-conceit were his strongest attributes. Even where gentleness and amiability manifested, they were generally cloaks to hide the selfishness within. His antagonistic proclivities had become national, and nations themselves were comprehensive manifestations of the same selfish and antagonistic characteristics. Governments were organized on a basis of might, offensive and defensive. War and threatening standing armies were the pride and reliance of all nations. Faith in Jehovah had disappeared from nearly all people of the earth. Neither could man be made to comprehend what was meant by the word faith is in Jehovah. Carnivorous diet had reduced him to be little more than a carnivorous animal and a fighter in the struggle for life. The people were of four kinds: first, turbulent and quarrelsome; second, silently selfish; third, hypocritical, smooth-tongued; and fourth, paupers and dependents. The dependents comprised the vast majority of the people. The people justified war, offensive and defensive, wherever profit was promised. Their boast and glory was in invention of ships of war and weapons of death. This spirit reacted back again on the people and manifested in their private and public transactions. Though the priests and preachers cried out peace, the example of all the world was against them. But these same expostulators for peace crippled their own efforts by telling the people any man should be called good and have salvation, no matter what crime he committed, provided he called on the name of their Savior before death. But it was not possible for so fixed a religion to keep pace with growth of intelligence in man, and as a consequence, many people revolted in heart against all religions, but hypocritically concealed their convictions, for their profit and success in the life struggle made this politic. Thus the ignorant and dependent still remained as accessories to this mischievous religion. 10. Psychologically, flesh diet had made man foul from the sole of his feet to the crown of his head. Nearly all people had some ailment as weak lungs, back, throat, chest, or rheumatism, catarrh, kidney weakness, prolapsus, decayed teeth, or deaf ears. Ye, the people smelled so of flesh and blood food. They could only be compared to flesh-eating animals. They smoked tobacco, and to hide their smell, they anointed themselves with various perfumes. What wonder was it that man was intellectually and spiritually dumb as to the objects and use of his creation? How was it possible to teach such a being a new religion and a new way of living? Who but very God could approach this stubbornness and self-conceit with good results? 3 words: religions, goodness, and cleanliness. He could not understand. True, he bathed himself, but the while he fed himself on the carcasses of animals and fish till he was like a pest house. Added to his grossness, he wore close-fitting clothes, retaining dead and effete exudations of his skin as a perpetual poultice of filth. Not knowing what a clean corporeal body was, how was it possible to provide him with a knowledge of a spiritual body? Public opinion had also become a great bondage. When it happened, as it sometimes did, that a person awoke to a higher inspiration in regard to man's creation, prejudice was so against him. He could not embrace what sell. All he had and gave to the poor. He was locked up in a lunatic prison. And if a man should sell all he had and give to the poor, he was locked up in a lunatic prison as a madman. Added to all the foregoing, a most corrupt competitive system of living prevailed. An undercurrent of warfare in the struggle for life lay down in the hearts of nearly all people. Now, therefore, when God, Jehovis' Son, sent down from heaven the new Bible, OAHSPE, commanding the chosen to come out of Uz and be clean and be prepared to found the Father's kingdom on earth, many heard, but they understood not. They thought they were prepared already. And many came from shallam hastily, forgetful of God's commandment, that they were to be constitutionally grown to the new life, as it had been said of a certain drunken man who went and signed the pledge, and straightway said, "We temperance people." He was rebuked, for he had not yet grown to be constitutionally temperate. Now with many who came to shallam, they had merely abstained from fish and flesh for a day or a month, and said, "We faithists." Yet the same corrupt body and contentious spirit was with them. Their habits were dissociative instead of associative, and when some of them perceived their own condition, they said, "If we go back to Uz, how can we prepare ourselves for Jehovah's work? We now perceive that we should live separate from the old conditions for several years before we can be prepared for the work of Jehovah had called his chosen to accomplish." It was to this kind of people that the thoughts and prayer of the chosen were turned, having faith that a condition could be provided for in time to come, so that it is not of the wicked who came to Shallam to rule all or to ruin all, and who were sent away, that contemplation is necessary. Sufficient was the judgment that came upon them. Thus it came to pass that many felt the inspiration of our Father to help bring into the world a new and better condition, but were not constitutionally prepared for a cosmos home. And yet many, these were not bad people under good circumstances, perhaps extraordinarily good. Many desolated habits, desiring houses of isolation where they could manage in their own way. Others had children of their own, which required all their time and attention. The children were undisciplined, and the parents were undisciplined, and knew not what discipline meant. Now the Ark of Cosmon had commanded that the Father's kingdom should be of orphans and foundlings, and other uncertain, uncared children. Others who came were so desirous of isolation that they could not work harmoniously in groups as an association. Nevertheless, it finally came to pass as stated. Jehovis provided shallam with the chosen alone, undisturbed by the presence of other people, and the work was fully begun. Many who were sent away, and some who went away of their own accord, repeated the very words that had been prophesied years before, saying, "A pretty Jehovis kingdoms." Some who went away and some who were sent away obtained considerable sums of money by fraudulent representations. Some goods and money was also stolen by the departers, and the world's people said, "Why do not the cosmon?" A cosmon is an owner of any and everything. A cosmon home is a place for caring for and raising up foundling and orphan children. Arrest them and send them to prison. But cosmons said, "Nay, we came not here to live in the old way, but to build a home for little children and to teach them to be non-resistant. Whoever will steal from us, steal it from the Father's children." Nor did the cosmon take any action against the persons mentioned, but rested entirely in faith in Jehovah. Now during the time of these trials, many slanderous tales were published regard to the cosmons, instigated by the persons who had been sent away. And because the cosmons indulged not in strong drink and flesh diet, they were also derided and abused by the world's people of dissipated habits, and this entered more or less into the alliance with such as had been sent away from the circulation of slander. But the cosmon retaliated, not saying, "This is to be Jehovah's kingdoms, not ours. We know not what is for the best in the long run. We suffer him to manage these things in his own way. We are here to work and to do what good we can, nor do we lament for anything that occurred." Now then, of Levitica, which was sprung from what had happened in the first founding shallam, and as the latter was for the unprotected and small children, their teachers and nurses, so was the former for adults, single and married, with their own children, and especially such as desired to live in isolated houses and to work and to manage their own way. The cosmons were strictly non-owners, as the name signifieth, whilst the Leviticans were non-owners of land and houses, but owners of household goods and other property. This then was the beginning of that doctrine, non-ownership of land by an individual, yet all the people were faithists in fact.